flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
What is going on, Hive? This is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the Hive Mind. This is a contrarian thinking live stream where we think beyond the headlines. So if you get rattled or offended on behalf of others when people ask questions about things that just don't make sense, or if you do not like to think critically, this will not be the stream for you. However, if you do, you have found your people. We are going to go beyond the headlines tonight with the Idaho 4 case because the truth doesn't care about feelings. And I have Devil's Advocates backstage, as always, on Mondays. He is a guest on the stream here in the Hive.
Did you see the big dropping news about Karen Laramie filing a restraining order against Moscow Police Department?
No.
Oh, God. Yeah. So she has filed a restraining order about them releasing crime scene photos, including her daughter, Maddie. She doesn't want the public seeing it. And so they are stopping that right now. They responded and said, look, we've been responding to legal Freedom of Information Act or public records requests. But now that you filed a lawsuit against us, we will halt that while we investigate. So they're having a legal battle because she doesn't want people seeing the crime scene photos that involves her daughter. So they've put a halt on it, I think.
I can see the argument of parents not wanting it out there, but I also can see the argument of people saying, well, what the hell? We're not getting any transparency on anything. And now look at this. It's just another thing that they're not going to let people see, which kind of adds to the deeper thinking of a conspiracy or what's going on that they're covering up. I totally think that that's what's leading to people saying, no, we need to see it. Rather.
It's super difficult because I understand it's got to be extremely painful for the families to have people looking at your family members, final moments. That's got to be horrendous. I understand that. And that's always the problem in journalism, right? Is where does the public right to know meet somebody's personal feelings on the matter? So their personal feelings there, I would prefer you not to look into the graphic photos of my family members' last moments on Earth. But by the same token, investigative journalists can't get to the bottom of things or see inconsistencies or anything like that if everything's hidden and you're not allowed to see it. So where does the public right to know meet the family's desire to not have their shit shown all over the place? And it's a tough question. It's super hard.
It is a tough question. And again, it's kind of one of those questions where I'm not surprised that it's happening in this case. Rather, I'm not surprised that it's going to go that route. And I have a lot of really good Hive Mind finds and slides to dive into, DA, that will go right along with that. Thank you for bringing that up. I had not heard that prior to you just saying that. As a reminder, I have a Discord and a Substack. All of my streams and the platforms that I use are free. All I ask, and the best way for you all to support the stream, is to just click subscribe. I'm working on a night in the Discord where I'm kind of going to steal what you're doing, DA, some nights with the after dark parties. I think I'm going to pick a weeknight where we'll have a set night where I go into the Discord, and Dawn and a few others from the Hive, thank you very much for working on that and getting that set up so we can have a good layout for that. That will be coming in the next couple of weeks. We also have birdiebombshell.com, which we have some awesome merch coming as well in September, and I'm excited to announce that. So there's a little bit of a teaser on those two things. And then, DA, if you want to let people know where to find you.
Yeah, as well. I have a Substack, devilsdocket.substack.com is where that's at, and a Discord channel. In fact, that news that I just told you about at the beginning of the night about the Moscow Police Department lawsuit from Laramie was dropped in my Discord just before the channel. So free Discord channel. Somebody thought one time that they had to pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. Lots of active stuff going on there. So I recommend you check that out as well. Look me at Devil's Advocates on the Discord channel. And one of my mods, I think, in the room will throw a link up for you as well. So thank you for giving me that opportunity as well. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Hive, as a reminder, the submissions and applications for the third ever Hive Mind Roundtable are open. I bumped it up a Sunday. Usually it's the last Sunday of every month, but with Labor Day, I moved it up to this upcoming Sunday, August 24th. I'm going to close that off on Thursday, or rather announce everything on Thursday. So you got about 3.5 days to submit it. I've already got a handful, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go ahead and submit for it. Or if you've submitted in the past, that doesn't mean you can't do it again. So those are always great. The first two have gone amazing. you email me at birdiebombshell00@gmail.com and put the subject line roundtable and then type a sentence or two what you'd like to discuss. Now, the Discord question of the day, I have to play this right away, DA.
Please retrieve your nearest tinfoil hat. Place hat firmly on your head. Prepare yourself.
Now, this question of the day, I believe there's people in here that are either going to absolutely see what this person's trying to say, or there's people that it's going to go right over their head. And if you're just an NPC that's tuning in and not having an open mind, your head might explode. So hold on to it, because Harley Quinn and Diego Girl, they said, we kind of went down an Illuminati rabbit hole yesterday, and I would like to see what the thoughts would be on the comparisons between the Idaho 4 victims and some of the kiddos who passed away, because it's super freaking scary. The mom in the glasses is the mother of the little boy who I believe looks so similar to Ethan. Now, I have an additional slide prepared to make sure that I could blow this up and make it bigger for everybody to see the similarities between these children and then the Idaho 4 victims.
Super interesting.
It is super interesting. And then obviously, as I know, all of the sheep are going to come out and say, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, fuck them. But I think that stuff's interesting. So,
it is interesting. It is. And if there's only, I allow, this is my dirty secret. I allow one night a week where I can go a little off the rails when I come on your show. So and the crisis actors thing, that became, the whole term about crisis actors really became a big deal during the summer of 2022, during the shooting in Sandy Hook and the whole idea that there was actors that were going in there pretending to be the families of lost victims, and all the allegations that no children actually died. And you were seeing the same kids show up and singing competitions and shit. And you're like, why the fuck is that kid still alive? And it led a lot of people down that. Are they hiring people to do mass psyops on America to think that something happened that didn't happen? So I get it,
Who knows? And again, I'm not even saying I believe this. I'm just saying this is interesting.
Right.
It's interesting that there's a real thing called crisis actors that have existed in the past and have been proven out that they are that. I'm not saying that this is it, but it's thought provoking. And I think it's very interesting to look into. So thank you to Harley Quinn and Diego Girl for that. Now, moving on to the Hive Mind finds. This next slide is what I was saying is going to give a lot of people some hope. The Idaho Innocence Project director is interested in the Brian Koberger case. This came from Latitude right before I hopped on stream. I just happened to be checking my inbox. They said, I would say the Idaho Innocence Project is very interested in BK case. Greg Hampikian is an American biologist and the founder and director of the Idaho Innocence Project. He is considered one of the foremost forensic DNA experts. And I think Crystal White just hit the nail on the head. It's factual innocence. When somebody says factual innocence or they're factually guilty, can you clarify that for everybody?
For me, that was a huge, huge moment when Bill Thompson said from the stand, from the beginning, Koberger and his attorney has always maintained their factual innocence. And I keyed on that word right away. I was like, oh, that's an interesting phrase, factually innocent. And I think what they mean is they knew it was a circumstantial case and the facts would show that he couldn't have done it. But it wasn't becoming about facts. It was a railroad, trial. None of the facts were allowed to come in. They were. This DNA thing is what kills me. And it started out in that article. He says, essentially, now there's not going to be a trial, so we're never going to be able to test that evidence. That was one of their big. God, I don't even know how to say this. They knew the DNA evidence wasn't a smoking gun. Bill Thompson admitted the DNA wasn't a smoking gun. And yet everyone in America seems to think, well, of course Koberger did it. They got his freaking DNA at the crime scene. That makes it sound like you think America thinks it's a smoking gun. The people who are the experts know it wasn't a smoking gun. And so would we have loved to have seen that fought out in court? Fuck. I mean, I would have loved to have seen that fought out in court. Guess what? We don't get to have that opportunity because they just pulled the rug under us. And I don't think they wanted us to see the details about how it was done because we would have went, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense, So, yeah.
And they sprinkle in little aspects of the truth when it comes to like, well, there's no guarantee in a trial. And I'm thinking to myself, guarantee to get a conviction? Like, yeah, I'm sorry, but most times if the evidence is I'm talking rather in the way they portrayed this evidence, you would think this evidence, you could lock the door, throw away the key. You would think with the narrative and everything that they've said they had on Brian, there would be no risk going to trial. Yet, no, people from the state have said, well, there's no guarantee. Yeah, it's like, well, you've been telling us this entire time since it's happened, He's literally the most guilty person on planet Earth.
And here's another thing. Like, I don't know that we beat this enough, but Ann Taylor's argument eventually became, so first of all, she was fighting the DNA on the snap in the first place. And they eventually told her, nope, we're not going to allow you to fight the DNA in the crime scene. So she's like, okay, just like this guy's saying, even if the DNA can be proven to be Brian Koberger's, it still doesn't tell you how it got there. And that's the chain of custody. And when Brian Koberger's DNA got on the snap, because as this guy even said, you have a Q-tip with somebody's DNA and you can place that anywhere you want. So if they got a Q-tip with Brian Koberger's DNA, they can hit the knife snap with it and put DNA on it. So you can't argue Brian Koberger's DNA was on the snap. What you can argue is, how did it get on the snap? So did somebody place it there? And that's what Ann Taylor said, essentially. It was that that she was hinting there was planted evidence. And some people say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because the knife sheath was found right away. Who would have had time to know to frame Brian Koberger and plant it there? Well, the question is, when was it planted? Did it sit in a lab, and did somebody transfer the DNA at the lab after they got Koberger's name and said, oh, let's make sure Brian Koberger's DNA is on that thing? You know, that's the question, is when did it become planted evidence?
Well, and look at what Lisa had said earlier. Bill says they don't even have any evidence he was ever in the house. It proves the DNA was transferred or the sheath was planted. That's exactly right. So you're going to stand up at the plea deal and the sentencing and say, and then also the post-sentencing press conference say, we can't put him in the house. So then, Bill, simple question here, my guy. How did the DNA on the sheath get in the house if you can't put Brian Koberger in the house?
Right. How do you maintain both of those with a straight face? Well, we can't put Brian Koberger in the house, but damn it, his DNA was in the house. You freaking double talking SOB. You can't have it both ways. You either can place him in the house because his DNA is there, or you can't place him in the house. And if you say you can't, it tells me they knew the DNA evidence wasn't going to place Koberger in the house. At the end of the day, if that got fought out in trial, it wasn't going to place Brian Koberger in the house. And that's why they're saying we can't place him in the house. They didn't have the smoking gun that everybody think, and everybody's going to go to bed thinking they got him. Oh yeah, they had him. They had his DNA.
Now, Rachel Butler Butler yesterday, and what I try to do, if you send a super chat that has a question in it and I do not get to it, I screenshot it after the stream and I make sure to do my best to answer it as a Hive Mind find. So thank you, Rachel, for the super chat. And you had asked, why would a broken refrigerator ruin blood evidence? If that ruined DNA, how do they test decomposed bodies? That's a great question. And full transparency, I didn't know the answer until I did some research on it. So I actually
educated.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from this. When it comes to DNA versus refrigeration, a broken refrigerator doesn't instantly ruin DNA, but improper storage accelerates degradation. Blood evidence is best preserved cold, as heat and bacteria speed up DNA breakdown. The biggest killer of blood DNA is when it starts to thaw or cool, and then condensation occurs. Blood would warm up in a closed fridge. Obviously, that doesn't have power. Now, when you look at a body decomp comparison, even in decomposed bodies, DNA can often be recovered from bone, teeth, hair, or tissue remnants. These materials protect DNA better than liquid blood left in a warm fridge. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was a good question. And I just wanted to make sure I got to that. Devil's advocates, let's talk about the double standard that literally nobody wants to talk about. Because if you question Dylan or Bethany, you're told you're victim blaming. And if you question Koberger, you're told you're not respecting the victims. So where is the logic, and what are we to do? How do you answer that?
There is no logic. That's just it. People are not being rational with this thing. They're parroting what media is telling them how to respond to it. So I don't think people are being super rational with this stuff. I mean, I just, you probably get attacked like I do in the comments from people who are telling you what a horrible human being you are for questioning the narrative.
Not really, actually. I really don't.
Oh, well then you need to come to my channel and enjoy some of my heat.
But I think it's, I genuinely think the reason why is because we're not attacking them. We're literally, I'm showing them with the screen shared. These are their words. These are how their words changed. Right. So all I'm doing is, these are adults. They're not children.
Right.
They're unfortunately not the first and only people to have trauma and tragedy in their lives. Now, it is different because it's high profile. Yes. However, we're not the ones that are putting it out there only. The entire world news and giant corporations are pushing this. So when that gets out there and your story changes and people died and you're an adult, not a child, and somebody says, hey, both of you guys heard stuff, one of you guys saw stuff, and you didn't call the cops for 8 hours, and as you continue to get questioned in the interrogation process, you go from you heard your roommate scream and run up the stairs to she was dancing with her dog.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
No, the shifting there, you read those documents and it becomes clear. Dylan's making up the story as she goes. And then she gets, it's very clear to me. She's making the story up. It's like somebody said, it's like the Kaiser Sose movie of the Usual Suspects movie, where the guy's just looking around the office and taking things that he's seeing. And, I'm going to make a story out of that. That's what I felt like she was doing with the officers during that interrogation. So, or those interrogations.
I do wonder if there was guidance too. I would love to hear the actual audio recordings of those, because tone plays a huge role in how something's said.
Well, you bring up a good point. One of the things when I was looking at the Idaho police reports that have been released, one of the things I made a big deal about it is Dylan immediately lawyered up. Right. So she wanted a lawyer present during her investigation. What you don't see in the transcript is ever a time when the lawyer advises Dylan not to answer that question or whatever. So it's interesting that there's a lawyer present, but we don't see anything in the transcripts that indicates that the lawyer was telling her what to say or not to say at any point at all. So what was that lawyer doing there? I question. Or did they edit the transcripts? I mean, I don't understand.
I made another slide in addition to this to help people visualize this. I'm showing you what they've said, like I was stating previously. And, I kind of have Homer Simpson backing into the bushes like, okay, wait, maybe there is a little bit of, something sus going on here, because Bryan Kohberger, let's all agree or disagree. If I say anything that is not factually true or factually innocent, in this case, DA, correct me, but Bryan Kohberger has no proven link to the victims, only disputed sheath DNA. True or false?
Yeah, that's true. Right. No link. They said that over and over again.
No chain of custody on evidence, and it was never addressed. That's true or false?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the chain of custody. I haven't heard them argue about the chain of custody, so I can't say whether they I don't know.
At least with the sheath. The chain of custody on IGG, I would say was it ever addressed? It's a secret.
Right.
And
that's what they called it. They call it, basically law enforcement trade secrets.
Correct. All right. Now, I say no contradictions and never gave a statement, still smeared. Obviously, he didn't give a statement, so there really can't be contradictions. But I want to stop and I want to ask the Hive and I want to ask you, has there been a proven contradiction in the story told around Kohberger from what any investigator or the state has shown us? Or has the contradiction rather come from mainstream media sources speculating and having to backpedal?
So this is a hard one, because so I don't know if Kohberger, or it was just his attorney, tried to establish the alibi that he had gone to Wawa Park to go stargazing that night. Remember, that was the big argument. And Cy Ray was maybe going to corroborate the idea that his cell phone data shows that he was moving away from Moscow, not towards Moscow. And so they're trying to manipulate the data. Someone told me that there's proof that Kohberger's got like a screenshot of the sky with geolocation potentially showing that he was at Wawa Park during the murders. And if that happens, then he's going to walk on this. But I don't know if that's the case. So the point I'm getting to is, did Kohberger ever reverse his statement? I don't know. Is Kohberger's official statement he was in Wawa Park and I guess he's never said he wasn't in Wawa Park. So there's not a reversal. But that's the big $1 million question, I think, is, is he still did he maintain? Or was it just a lawyer speculating that he might have been in Wawa Park, and now are they conceding that, okay, yeah, he wasn't in Wawa Park, our bad, he was in Moscow?
Well, as you're saying that, and I don't mean disrespect, to what you just said, but it's like the news has been the one that the news has muddied the water. So like what I'm saying
Correct.
rather is,
yeah,
we're all talking about this. Well, okay, if you were to just stick to the court documents on Bryan Kohberger, and obviously it's going to be impossible for everybody to have every court document memorized in this case, with it being sealed and then it's not sealed. Now they're just flooding it with the police reports. But rather, I would say, to be safe, he's smeared way more than any contradiction would probably deserve to be smeared thus far, in addition to the evidence.
Right. Right.
And that leads me to the next point. The media painted him guilty from day one. It was a trial by headlines. I don't think there's any argument on that.
Right. No.
Every detail of his life dissected, total demonization. No argument on that one. I think even if you think he's guilty, you would say, well, good, he's a monster. You should demonize him. But that's really what happened. Both of these things happened day one.
Yes. Oh,
now,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I've had people on my channel that when, you know, Kohberger pled guilty, they said, I could have told you that from day one. The first second they said he was guilty, that he was the suspect, I knew he was the guy. So I'm glad it took you 2.5 years to get to where I already knew from day one. I'm like, well, you're an idiot, because if you haven't watched this case, there was a massive amount of circumstantial evidence and a lot of questions and a lot of better alternative suspects who Hitler wasn't going to allow them to talk about. So good for you that you think you're such a great detective that you had it figured out on day one because the media told you who it was. But it's just asinine. The whole thing's asinine. But
and now I want to again just look at the facts of this for Dylan and Bethany. The 8-hour delay, it's more so rather the contradictions of the mainstream media versus what's shown in the record is what I'm getting at. That's the point of this slide. 8-hour delay before the 911 call. That is excused as trauma. True or false?
Yes.
Contradictory stories across police documents that were never challenged. True or false?
True. Yeah.
DNA everywhere in the house that was ignored.
Yeah. True. True.
Media paints them as heroes and they are shielded from scrutiny.
Yes. True. Yeah.
And families and law enforcement defend them, making them untouchable. I would also add in the NPC mouth-breathing fluoridated zombies all over social media that go after guys like DA or myself for thinking critically.
Yeah.
And probably people in the Hive as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Sherlock hit the nail on the head. It's just so much more damning. Can we address the thing too that it looks, let's address the fact that it looks more damning because of the state's own words after the sentencing and the hearing on what they did not have on Brian, yet they have these two right here that they've completely excluded the entire time. It hits different once you know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it fundamentally makes no sense to me. The whole fucking thing doesn't make sense to me. How these two, the fundamental question, why didn't the killer kill Dylan as well? Like you're literally, you say, we locked eyes. He looked at me, I looked at him. We saw each other, but he just walked on by.
In addition to all of this stuff here, what we just talked about as far as a double standard, I want to read some court documents that people may have forgotten about. So the first one says, Mr. Kohberger has reasons to be extremely suspicious of the IGG used in this case. Rather than seeing it as some sort of complex tree building that led to him, it appears far more like a lineup where the government was already aware of who they wanted to target. Rather than have the investigation done by someone blind to the fact, the FBI chose to do it themselves. This is akin to the police pulling Mr. Kohberger and 5 of his cousins off the street and then pointing at him. And I will pause after each one of those so you can give your thoughts, DA.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if this thought is right on that, but let's not forget how this happened. It's not like they got the DNA match and then found out it was Kohberger and went after Kohberger. They decided it was Kohberger first and then made the DNA match him. That cannot be overstated. They already had Kohberger's name before they had the match to Kohberger, and not the other way around. So that's big.
Yep. They did it. They did it in the reverse order. The second one says Mr. Kohberger finds himself in a similar position as Mr. Arteaga. A massive investigation came to focus on him and him alone. The state appears to be trying to hide its original domino such that he cannot discover why. Mr. Kohberger has a right to discover and question the investigation that led to him. This court should find so.
100%. That's the thing. You have the right to challenge the evidence against you. And Hitler was trying to say somehow that the government didn't have to prove how they got Kohberger's DNA. You know what? It's irrelevant. We don't intend to show that in court. Well, You used it for the PCA, for the probable cause affidavit to get the arrest, and you used all these things. He has the right to challenge every single piece of evidence against him. And they were trying to say, hey, we're going to use this against you, but you don't have the right to challenge it. And that's illegal. That's a violation of his constitutional rights. And I realize if you think he's a criminal, you don't care that he has constitutional rights. But unfortunately, that's my thing. I don't care if you're a criminal or not. Let's uphold the Constitution in this country and do things by the law and not like violate all your freaking civil liberties because you want to get the bad guy.
I completely agree. You're innocent until proven guilty. It's cliche and it's corny, but it's the truth. It's the truth. You're innocent until you're proven guilty. And now this last document says the state, this one's kind of funny. The state apparently thinks that they need not explain how they came to think that it was Mr. Kohberger's DNA on the sheath. Presumably, the defense is expected to accept at face value that the sheath had touched DNA just waiting for testing by all the FBI's myriad resources. Additionally, the defense is to guess whether the state focused its investigation on Mr. Kohberger via a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment or through its faulty identification of the vehicle involved in this case.
In my opinion, if it had been a fair trial, Ann Taylor would have been able to bring up the 4 alternative suspects that Hitler said she couldn't talk about. She would have been able to bring them up. And here's how it would have happened. They would have challenged the DNA evidence, and they would have challenged how they obtained it and developed the DNA profile, and they would have challenged that car identification. Those 2 things are highly, highly debatable and would have led juries to wonder, I'm not sure how good that is. And if you're not sure how good that is, then you have to go, well, then who else could have done it? And that's where the alternative suspects come in. This person had a motive. This person had a motive. This person had motive and opportunity. This person knew the house. And so denying him all of that, denying him to be able to challenge the evidence and telling him he can't bring alternative suspects is just a travesty. It's that should have happened in court, and them not having a trial now let them avoid that whole mess that they were in, which was, a jury would have probably started to question the DNA, and they would have started to question the identification of the car, and it would have left them with, well, then who else could have done it? And then the list would come in and you'd have reasonable doubt.
The tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day is, who is the biggest glitter buyer in the world? Do you know, DA? Has anybody heard of this?
No.
Okay. This is one of the weirdest stories ever. In 2018, the New York Times interviewed GlitterX. It's one of the world's largest glitter producers. The reporter asked a seemingly simple question. Quote, who is your biggest customer? The GlitterX spokesperson answer was chilling. Oh, I can't tell you that. When pressed, they explained, you'd never guess it. It's something you would never think of. And if you knew, you would never look at glitter the same way again.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. What is it?
What does that mean, bro?
I don't know.
That is kind of chilling when you think of like how harmless glitter seems to be. But a GlitterX spokesperson's like, I can't tell you. You'll never look at it the same.
You don't want to know. What the hell is that?
I researched a couple of popular theories around. I went on Reddit looking this up to see who the most popular theories are about the quote secret buyer. A lot of people said it's the military for camouflage and stealth technology for disrupting radar, thermal, and optical detection. Others thought that it was for currency and documents, so it's a security layer to prevent counterfeiting. And then a lot of other people were saying it's the car industry for automotive paint.
Even so, why would any of those freak somebody out and make them never look at glitter the same again? That's the part that doesn't make sense.
I don't know. One of the rather disturbing ones was also popular was like, it's in the food. Like a lot of glitters like in food, and it's like a filler.
That would be it. That'd be like that you'd never look at glitter the same kind of thing. Yeah.
I have no idea, but I just thought that one was interesting because I've heard of that, but I had no idea that it stemmed from the New York Times reporter asking a very harmless question of who's your biggest buyer, and they're like, "Oh, I can't
tell you that. I can't tell you.
You'll never look at glitter the same."
What the hell is that?
And I'm just gonna go ahead and finish with this comment because one more clown horn for the road for Joe, who's saying that, so what? They didn't call the cops when you think they should have. Stopped acting like there's some kind of giant conspiracy when you have zero facts to support that. The evidence says BK acted alone. Well, Joe, I hope you have a great night, man. And I go live every night at 7 p.m. Central if you want to tune in to see how that comment was awarded the clown horn. Please do not forget that this Hive Mind Roundtable is open. I'm closing that on Thursday. So if you want to be in it, send me an email. Put the subject line as Hive Mind Roundtable. I will be back on tomorrow evening at 7 Central. Cheers, everybody. Thanks, DA.
Later.
Yep.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.